we have a couple of scouts. Want to come up and lead us in this flag salute, please? Be ready.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What troop are you with, guys?
47.
What is it?
47.
47. Is that out?
Patchogue.
You guys been around for a long time, 47. Listen, my son was in it. I might have even gotten thrown out. Well, welcome to the board meeting.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions first of all before we get started? No?
What are you doing?
What's that?
Speak in the microphone now.
Okay, nice. Anything we can do to help, let me know. Thank you. Welcome everyone to the village board meeting of October 28th. Just a reminder that there's an emergency, we have six in the nearest exit, which in this case is the rear of the building, it's not the other end of the building. Go to your vehicles, please do not leave until you're so directed by emergency service personnel. Do not smoke in the building, so if you must do it outside.
Yes, good evening. Board meeting minutes approval for October 15, 2013. I have sort of a typo on page 9. The second to last paragraph where it talks about the COAD meetings, it says COAD. They are COAD. It's Trustee Green said I've been in a couple of COAD meetings.
I did say co-ed.
But she wrote COAD. She probably didn't know what COAD was.
Any other motion to accept the change? Let me say. All in favor? Close the period. Just close it out.
Okay, the total amount for the period was $498, $317.91. Top 5 bills: New York State Employee Health, $108, $274.70 for the monthly health insurance. Villager Skidmore, $60,414.76 for general liability oil. H2M, $29,870.20 for the general retainer and various projects village-wide. Eastern Resource Recycle, $18,683.14 for refuse disposal. And LIPA, $14,922 for lighting village-wide. Top 5 total, $232,164.80. Please.
Motion to accept the consent.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Favor? Public hearings.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, October 28, 6 p.m., 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, to amend Chapter 162 of Village Code to provide a procedure for removing and/or repairing unsafe structures by proposed local law, a copy of which is on file at the office of Village Clerk. At said public hearing, any person interested will be given the opportunity to
Last meeting, there was certain concerns registered by a number of residents about a number of homes that are in pretty good condition. And how do we go about managing those homes? How do we go about, if need be, having them declared unsafe? And we'd actually, Attorney Egan had been in the process of putting together some changes to amend Chapter 162. I'm going to ask the attorney to please review those changes that are made and what was the report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, trustees. In this section of changing chapter 162, you'll see the changes that were there. We felt that the prior chapter 162 was inadequate for the needs of what the village, and also case law that's since progressed to make the due process for the property owner much clearer, especially now with the banks that are in charge of foreclosures or possession of foreclosures. It adds definitional sections, which the board will walk through with me. lays out definitional sections, both on condition and the property, and lists what are unsafe or hazardous building conditions. The building inspector or his designee can designate which ones of these are present in a property. Interior walls that are leaning or buckling or past the plumb line, 33% more damages on foundation, absence of sanitation facilities. It's got to certify that there are extreme examples that allow this property to be hazardous or unsafe or dangerous. Upon his certification, the building inspector will provide a notice to repair or remove to the property owner, whoever that may be in possession. Again, that could be a bank, that could be a property owner, it could be someone who abandoned it, it could be someone who's in a battle with their insurance company over a fire. Buildings, some buildings we have that have been caught fire and remained unrepaired by the insurance company. That notice to repair is then served with the exact details of what the contents are, the due process rights. It goes on to say that then it is filed with the village clerk or the county clerk. And then if there's no response, it can have a hearing before this board. The property owner or those in possession have the ability to come into public hearing. They're summoned to come here, testify before the board as to why it's not, have their engineer testify as to why it's not. More often than not, other examples, where similar laws have been used, but people default and don't appear. The board then makes an order in its opinion, and whether it feels that the board can go ahead and demolish the house, and that charge is then billed back to the property owner on their taxes. Also authorizes for the first time certain emergency measures the building inspector may make to secure the building. Again, it goes on to say the costs and expenses of demolition are borne by the property owner. Convictions, violation schedule for violations of the keeping an unsafe property. And again, authorizes emergency action when it's necessary if the building inspector needs it, for instance, when there's been a fire or parts of the property that are in imminent collapse. There could be situations where exterior walls, for instance, have been compromised. We had, a few years ago, we had a situation with the garage in River Avenue. We had to take emergency measures to save or the property to do that. That dragged out in such a way that it wasn't acceptable to the village. And ultimately, that property did partially collapse, and then that motivated the property owner to demolish that garage. That's what this law is intended to do. So in sum, it's providing definitions for the unsafe or hazardous conditions so everybody is aware of what those objective standards are, both the property owners and the building inspector. The due process rights for violations, and then the process for the hearing in front of the board. Authorizes emergency measures, and then authorizes the costs and expenses of demolition to be charged back to the property
On the taxes.
on their taxes.
Which is by the board.
So we refer to unoccupied houses?
Well, generally, yes. But there's an argument about ownership. I mean, if the property is occupied and it's in such a condition, it shouldn't no longer be occupied.
But if it is,
Well, what if it is like?
Well, if it is occupied, then we have to, the people in the house who get the notice that they have an unsafe condition, they have order to remedy it. If it turns out that the people are in there, it's a good question by the deputy mayor. If you turn to page 8, 162-11, request for judicial action. In the event that it would be occupied, the building inspector is authorized to request either a request from the board of trustees to commence a judicial action, and have the village attorney commence a shutdown order, as we've done, for instance, on the property on Lake Street.
Swimming pools.
Swimming pools aren't in this section.
any other questions by the board? Public? Questions by the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, John Boschek, in Master Street. I don't think it's right that no member of the public speak about this because it's a matter of public concern and it's a good proposal and should be adopted by the village. I have a house on River Avenue near my home. It's been virtually abandoned after 5 years. It probably might fit into one of these categories and I'll be following up. I just want to point out something. These questions about occupied housing. Just remember, occupied housing that are unsafe for human habitation with children in them. Immediate report to Child Protective Services. Imminent danger is pretty much made out simply by Peter Sayers saying it's unsafe. Children, at least, were removed forthwith. There were long judicial proceedings to get that done. So in those instances, that's what the village should keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments by the board? Motion to accept as. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing be held on Monday, October 28th, in this building, 14 Baker Street, Patchogue, New York, by the Board of Trustees to amend Section 336-4A of Chapter 336 of Village Code to create a rebuttable presumption of rent, a copy of which proposal laws on file of the office of the village clerk, at said public hearing, any person interested will be given the opportunity to hear.
Future legislation refers to a house that may or may not be owner-occupied, a single-family home that may have rentals in it. And it allows a reversal of what we do now.
Correct.
Right now, we have to prove that they are owner. This will reverse that process.
This was a request by the village prosecutor, and it's born out of the rental occupancy violations that we see in the village justice court. It creates what's called a rebuttable presumption of rent. What that it's an evidentiary burden shifting onto the defendant. That if you're occupied, if you have your house occupied by somebody who you're not related to, not a family member, the general common sense presumption is that person's paying you rent. In justice court now, the village prosecutor is charged with proving that rent is being paid, and oftentimes those tenants are intimidated by the landlord or don't cooperate in the prosecution. What this seeks to do is create a rebuttable presumption of rent, that if a third party is occupying a property, it's presumed that it's rented for a fee, and a charge made if the premises are not occupied by the legal owner thereof. It's a rebuttable presumption because the defendant couldn't come into court and say, no, in fact, the person is not renting the property, and it is being rented for free, and then it's an evidentiary burden question for the village justice to resolve. This just seeks to shift the burden onto the defendant to prove the rebuttable presumption of rent.
Questions by the board?
So this would be for non-family, non-related people.
Correct. The existing law that this board amended not too long ago, actually, added the subsection 1 under A, that it's an affirmative defense to a violation of this section if the rental occupants are immediate family members of the owner as defined in this chapter. So it would make sense, that makes sense if they, for instance, there's another property of someone, if you have a son or a daughter or somebody else living in that property. Again, this is only a rebuttable presumption of rent. It just creates it that it's on the defendant to disprove it.
So if the defendant comes in and says, my son lives there, but he's not paying me rent, he can prove that.
That's an
and
absolute
fine.
affirmative defense, yes. Or a tenant is willing to sign an affidavit saying that I don't pay any rent on the penalties of perjury.
But in the absence of that proof, then.
The presumption
The
is
presumption is that
that-
the person is renting and they would be guilty of not having a rental permit or whatever.
Correct.
In violation in some manner.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments by the board? Public?
This may have been covered, because we had a problem here. Does it cover all rentals regardless of size or,
Yes.
okay, thank you, that's all.
It actually covers all homes.
Right, anything that a rental occupancy permit will be required for.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis Ross.
Dennis, I'm sorry, Patty.
That's
Dennis
fine.
Ross, 32 West Main Street.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept as presented?
Motion.
Second? Second. Any other questions, concerns? All in favor? Aye. Okay. And one of the things we had done last year, after Hurricane Sandy came through, was anybody who had substantial damage to their property to apply to the village to have their, a reduced assessment on their property to reflect that land value for the tax year 2014. 82 Broadway Street, which is on the waterfront, had asked that it be done. They never followed through with it. They've asked us to, if they could do the reduction tonight is that we can't do it for this year, but, and they are, just an aside to that, they've had building inspectors, and they've had contractors in now, and they're starting work on it, probably as we speak. I think they got the building permit yesterday, to start the renovations on it. To reflect the land value for the upcoming tax year of 2014. So basically what we're asking is, we move from this year, they'll pay the full amount on this year, and they'll get that next year's tax will reflect what we had done for every other storm-related property. Any questions on that? Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Where's that, see it, right? Any comments here tonight?
He's running late, he'll be here.
Okay. Do you have any comment, Lori?
No.
How do we make out Saturday?
Very well.
Yeah,
I mean,
got
just,
that little later in the afternoon. It was-
I mean, the wind started kicking up at like 1:30 and, but things were good. It was a good crowd. Good response. Parabel won the chili contest and Mediterranean Manor won the chowder contest, which David's probably gonna give in his report.
Okay.
So you didn't hear it from me.
It'd be very brief.
Thank you, Mayor Fanieri. Just one brief thing, I'm going to talk a couple brief things. One again, great show at the Patchogue Theater, benefit for the Patchogue Chamber of Commerce, Knights of Columbus, and a great show. About 800 people in attendance, and I got to tell you, the kid who sang the Star Spangled Banner.
Was it unbelievable?
Was anybody at the show? Oh, this kid was unbelievable. He had to be what, 8 years old?
9, 10 minutes.
Maybe 10 at the most. But what a voice on this kid. Did a great job and really stirred up the crowd. He would have been completely stirred.
Yeah.
So it was great. And Uncle Floyd, the classic comedian Uncle Floyd, if you're familiar with him, he was there and put on a great show. Very funny guy. And the Del Satins were there and put on a good show. And a lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people had lunch in the village prior to the show. And it was really good. It was a good afternoon to spend at the Patchogue Theater. I think many people of you have been up in the village the last week have noticed that we are striping the streets and numbering, and I thank Trustee Keys for his involvement in getting that done, and Joe Dean too for making sure those things get done, and they're doing a good job. And we'll be Trustee Keys and I will be on Railroad Avenue at 6:30 tomorrow morning, and working on some other, 6:30. So that should be done probably by the end of this week, right? Yeah. And I noticed that they're starting to put the footings in.
Yeah, they're really going with those. They
Yeah.
should be done by the end of the week.
Yeah. So you'll start seeing those parking meters start popping up on the street in a little while. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Before we go, one other thing I just wanted to bring up, I'm going to ask my village attorney to explain and make comment to it. Many of you know there are, over the last couple of years, the issues with the Tri-Tech, there were 4 lawsuits that were taken against the Article 78s. And we found out on Friday that the last of those was dismissed.
13 months later.
And just a little background on it, Brian.
Well, 13, it seems like so long ago and almost irrelevant now that the construction is so far along, but 13 months ago, there was the series of 4 lawsuits that were filed. The village and the developer were successful in all of the challenges. This was the last lawsuit, which was the challenge to the village board's extension of the site plan, essentially. The court characterized the plaintiff's arguments as verbose and sometimes nonsensical, but the essence of the claim was that if the village board will recall the details, they had filed for an extension of their site plan timely, just before the expiration, at the very next village board meeting, it was adjourned for 2 weeks to the next village board meeting on the board's motion. And the challenge was that that was not a timely action by the Board of Trustees. Justice Baisley from the Supreme Court agreed with the village, disagreed with the petitioners, dismissed the claim, and dismissed the lawsuits. The petitioners had tried to make it a motion to amend their pleading, and that was denied as well. So this was the last lawsuit that was brought in the village again, and we're glad to report was successful in defeating all of the challenges to the project.
The unfortunate part is it cost the village $40,000.
It cost the village $40,000 at the reduced municipal rate. That was a full rate, it would have been another third on top of that. And I'm sure the developer, it costed them at least 2 or 3 times that amount with their privately retained attorneys.
Trustee Keys.
Mr. Mayor, fellow board members, ladies and gentlemen, I have a pretty long wish list, so I'll leave any other comments. A few meetings ago, actually, I think we approved going out to bid for generators for 380 Bay, for DPW, and for 390 Bay, right? 390 Village Hall and DPW, I'm sorry. We just opened the bids on Thursday, so our engineer just really got to go over them Friday and Monday, so you probably don't have this in your package. The low bidder, the lowest acceptable bidder was Flanagan Electric. So I'm requesting approval to hire Flanagan Electric to install the generators, Department of Public Works, Village Hall, and 380, 390 Bay Avenue, at a cost not to exceed $162,000.
Did we get a copy of that?
No, I just got it myself. So I could pass it around. Like I said, the engineer only got it like Friday.
I didn't get it at the time.
This is just to install the generator.
Purchase of.
It's a purchase and installation. Purchase and installation. We had bids as high as 360, 380, I think, something like that, right, Joe? About 380.
Yeah, it had been recommended to us by a gentleman who was in the generator field that the generators be run on natural gas instead of liquid. You know, if we investigate it.
Yeah, our engineers investigated that and decided that's what we would go with.
Joe didn't? Lieutenant Joe Heath.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees, we'll start. What's the question?
About whether that's running with diesel.
They're diesel. Village Hall might be natural gas, I can't say for certain, Bill, whether it is or it isn't. DPW is diesel because we have an 8,000 gallon diesel tank on site. And we elected to go with diesel down at 380 Bay Avenue. Natural gas is a much louder generator. We would have had to do some sound attenuation, which would have been expensive. And if you remember during the storm last year when we needed a generator the most, National Grid cut the gas service to the south end of town, which would have rendered our generator useless. So we elected to go with diesel down there.
What's the actual cost of install versus the actual cost of the generators and such? Is
What
that
is factor?
Yeah.
it's not broken down?
One of the issues with this company was they called and they asked whether they could substitute an equal piece of equipment for the one that was proposed. And that's one of the reasons we came into that price from the other ones, is they came up. And Joe, the engineers felt that the generators that they're proposing were equal to the ones that were part of the bid package.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. They checked them out. The one is a marine generator, very well known in the industry and very reliable. And the other one is operated by a John Deere motor, so very much equal to Cummins, which was, the bid spec said Cummins or equal. So they're satisfied and that they're suitable substitutions for what we want and serve our needs.
Okay, any other questions?
It's just, I would have liked to have seen more detail on the proposal. There's nobody in-house that can install those, Joe?
Yeah.
No, not really, Trustee Creed. It's
It requires a demolition first of the existing generators and blowing them away. It includes new concrete footings and slabs to place the generators on, siting of tanks and or natural gas lines, including all the electrical switch gear, automatic switch-over switches, so that when the power cuts out, there's a delay, and then the generator comes on, as well as testing all this equipment, and then tying in the in-house electric and selecting those items that we want powered up in the event of a power outage. It's a substantial amount of work. It's a soup to nuts proposal, covers everything. It's turnkey. When they walk out the door, we're covered.
The generator at 380 Bay Avenue, where is that actually going to be located?
It's going to be located in roughly the same spot it is now. That generator is going to be taken out, the footing will be taken out, we'll pour into the concrete slab. It's right adjacent to the building where the power drop comes into DPW. So it's a good spot for it, and all the wiring conduit is there.
Any other questions? Was there a report from the engineer?
The engineer did supply a letter of recommendation that stamped it.
With a list of what you just indicated?
That would be in the bid specs. That would be in the bid spec package. There was the bid package included a set of drawings for all of the locations, specifying what needed to be done, as well as a booklet of specifications describing the demolition, installation, testing, certification, etc.
Did we get a copy of that?
The copy was available at Village Hall. I'm not sure if you got a copy or not.
We normally don't send out big packages to.
No, I know, but it's fairly expensive and that kind of will take time to consider it, but it's good.
Thank you. A motion to accept the consent? Motion. Second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you. Requesting approval to hire Rosemont Construction to mill and pave Marvin Street at a cost not to exceed $66,000.
Just, the funding out of this is coming from various sources. We have what's called CHIPS money, which is state funding that we get every year. What is it, about $110,000 a year, Joe? I think we get $120,000.
It's close to 160.
160, yeah? Okay. There's CHIPS money. We also have the money that we've gotten through former Assemblyman Dean Murray to allow us to draw down money from our sewer reserves. And what was the third one, Joe? We had one?
That was the CCAP money.
CCAP. There was a grant that was given to us when Art Space was first proposed for about $250,000. So these dollars are coming from various sources.
There's $168,000 remaining in CHIPS, so I was going to mention that.
Oh, okay.
You know, in totals of these, all the roads that I'm proposing to be paid is about $191,000, $192,000. 168 would come from CHIPS, that's what was remaining in CHIPS money, and the other 23 would come out of the CCAP that the mayor mentioned.
You want to go through them?
One at a time?
Yeah.
Requesting approval to hire Rosemont Construction to mill and pave Marvin Street at a cost not to exceed $66,000.
The motion, second? All in favor? Okay.
Requesting approval to hire Rosemont Construction to mill and pave East 4th Street at a cost not to exceed $40,000.
All in favor? Okay.
Request approval.
Can I just ask a question on East 4th Street? Does that include going down to the lake? No? Okay. Have we decided what we're going to do there, or? Okay.
Oh, that's that little spot.
Yeah, that's
Request approval to hire Jadeco Construction to install curbs and sidewalk on the south side of Smith Street from Ryder Avenue to Bay Avenue at a cost not to exceed $53,000. Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. Request approval to hire Jadeco Construction to install curbs and sidewalk on the east side of Ryder Avenue from the racetrack to Smith Street at a cost not to exceed $11,500. Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. Request approval to hire Jadeco Construction to install curbs and sidewalk on the east side of Ryder Avenue from Carmen Street to the racetrack at a cost not to exceed $22,000. This will give us one complete sidewalk from Carmen all the way down the street.
What's the linear footage on that, Joe, roughly? It just seems like a long stretch.
Well, whatever's existing is gonna stay, it's gonna, in other words, the sidewalks are gonna be in the existing piece.
Right, I got you. So they're just doing, they're not replacing the whole
No,
on that, okay. All right.
and that's a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Okay, the goal has always been is to be able to get sidewalks from the schools down to the parks. And this will really be able to bring the sidewalk from Bay Avenue School, because if you put the new sidewalks on Carmen, so we'll be able to come down Carmen, get wider, and be able to stay on sidewalks all the way down to the schools themselves. And the next is to be able to get the sidewalks so they go up to the storefronts.
Still front to short front, Mr. Mayor. Requesting to provide park line asphalt maintenance to prep, paint, and number new pavement markings in the Terry Street, Church Street, and Oak Street parking lots in an amount not to exceed $78,000. This obviously is coordination with the meter installation. I guess Jackie probably mentioned the plan last week. We're going to do Main and South Ocean and Ryder for now, and Railway for now, and the parking lots will be finished in the spring. This is a request to approve park line condition to do all the crack, fill, and seal now.
So there won't be any resurfacing at this point?
No.
No, that'll be, the season is not right for that, but I would like to get before winter comes, get all the, crack fill and seal out. One less thing we have to worry about this month. And that's a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Requesting approval to hire Anthony Spataro as a senior swing man at an increase of $1 an hour retroactive to June 1, 2013.
Motion,
Motion.
second, all in favor?
And there are three other things, requests that are also not in your package. A few meetings ago, we requested payment of $128,000 to Damasco to pay Cleveland, Grant, and Wood. I'm going to look for approval to rescind that approval, and then I'm going to ask for approval to pay Damasco $99,000 and Roseline $89,000. There was an issue with the proposal, and I asked Joe actually to come and kind of, if anybody has any more questions they'd like answered, but Sergeant Long will be there.
Basically what happens, we use the, was it Suffolk County bid?
No, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Or they took off the bid?
trustees, Mr. Mayor, I guess a little history would be a good place to start. About a year ago, the village board put out a bid for a requirements contract, public works contract. The board, we had an engineer prepare a bid spec package, and the work involved included road pavement, drainage, sidewalks, curbs, a number of other items. This road project down on Cleveland, Grant, and Wood was awarded out of that bid spec package, not out of the Suffolk County one. It was the village's own requirements contract. Damasco Incorporated was awarded the mix-in-place item on that contract. Mix-in-place is a type of road reconstruction where the road is milled right in and mixed with the sub-base, stabilized, and then paved over. Rosemar Construction was awarded the placement of the hot asphalt wearing course. Suffolk County contract, when it's bid out, they bid out asphalt in tons, because that's a method used when you're doing long stretches and lots of roads. That doesn't work so well with small villages doing small projects. A much better way to keep contractors' feet to the fire is to bid it out in inch per square yard. And that was the unit number that we used, was inch per square yard. When I met with Damasco on the mix-in-place, I met with Grant Hendricks Jr. We talked about the project. He said that he would contact Rosemar and put together a complete price quote for the board to consider, which he did. What he didn't do was contact Rosemore for the price. He looked at our requirements contract and didn't do the math properly. So what he did was he submitted a price for 1 inch per square yard on the hot asphalt overlay on those roads. When what we needed and what we ended up getting was 2.5 inches of hot asphalt overlay. So the price per square yard goes from $5.24 to $13.10. The board considered a proposal to do those roads in an amount of $128,000, if I'm not mistaken. That number came in, when all was said and done, at about $60,000 higher. That was through nobody's fault except the contractor. He priced it incorrectly. However, having said that, what we received was what we had been invoiced for. We had inspectors down on site. We got an excellent product out of there, out of the job. It's a road that's going to last a long, long time. The problem is that when we were initially given the price quote, we thought we were going to be able to get this done for $128,000, not for closer to $170,000. So, I don't have any better explanation than that. If the board has any questions.
Joe, just for clarification too, this is not a bidding situation. This was buying off of the established state contract, correct?
Not a state contract, a village contract.
County contract.
No, village contract.
Village
The
contract.
village of Patchogue put out a requirements contract, and this was off of that.
Got probably a year ago.
Oh, right, okay. This is a village contract though, much similar in.
Very similar to a state contract or a county contract, very similar to.
That's what my point was.
The units that we used were ones that worked better for a village and the scope of work that we do, the size of the work that we do. The county comes in and they bid out a project where they're paving all of, Route 112, 14 miles of road. We're doing, quarter mile of East 4th Street. So it's a method that we can control the amount of asphalt that's put down. Where if we did it by the ton, contractor could drop an extra couple ton here or there, and whether we need it or not, we're paying for it. But with an inch per square yard, it's very easy to go out and measure the thickness of the asphalt. It's worked in other jobs that we've done, where we contacted Bobby Garone and he gave us the price and we did it. Unfortunately, we counted on Damasco to give us a good number, which we didn't get.
Again, it's a great number, just a
Well, it's a great number, it just wasn't the right number, exactly.
So who's,
Short. Rosemont would be short. Rosemont got shorted.
and we paid out 128.
We haven't paid
We
anybody
haven't
yet.
paid any, but we've approved the payment of
The
$128,000,
board approved a job for $128,000 for all those roads.
and now we're looking to increase that to, what do you say?
189.
$66,000.
From 128 to 189 is what, 61,000? And if we don't do this, Rosemore is going to be out $61,000 of product that they put on our road.
Yeah, pretty much. It's useful to point out that we were committed to doing Cleveland Street in this method. Cleveland Street is a heavily trafficked road. It had deteriorated to a point where a mill and overlay wasn't going to address the condition that it was in. Grant and Wood were in similar conditions, but they're not as heavily trafficked. In my opinion, a mill and overlay, probably would have sufficed. But when we reached out to the contractor to give us a price because he was there, the number was so good we decided to jump at it and get those roads done then. Had we had the right number, I never would have recommended to the board that we mix in place Grant and Wood. So there is a big onus on Damasco, for giving us a bad price. If this bad number had just come in on one street, that's the way it goes, but we, we made a decision based on their number, and,
So isn't there any recourse?
that I can't offer any recourse, I can only offer, the history of what happened.
How was it that Rosemar didn't give us a price?
It's a good question, Bill. I don't know. The price quote that we received from Lamasco initially had Lamasco's number, said Lamasco, their number, had Rosemar, their number, and the total. The way the price quote was written, it appeared to us that Rosemar had given them the number. It wasn't only until after the invoices came in that the numbers didn't add up, and Joanne from across the hall gave me a call. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought, it was a few dollars, because that happens. And then I saw the numbers compared to what was approved, and I called Lamasco and asked them, what had happened. They initially thought that the math problem was our mistake, and when I submitted returned the invoices to them, they started looking into it and they figured out what had happened. They should have reached out to Rosemar to give us a price. That's what they should have done. They shouldn't have relied on themselves to interpret our bid contract when they weren't awarded that item. However, having said that, it wasn't a difficult bid to understand. It said price per inch per square yard. If you do 1 inch, it's $5.24. If you're going to do 2.5 inches, it's $13.10.
So we're proposing to take this money, Joe, to cover this shortage. Is this money coming from other road projects that you have in mind, or is this coming from our general fund where we're going to come up with this extra
It'll come out of the sewer surplus money, which technically is money we would use on the roads. But,
sewer surplus?
yeah, that sewer surplus money that we had freed up, right? The other half of that is that the roads that would have been done, but they probably would have been done for $15,000 a piece, $16,000 a piece. So maybe 20, I don't know.
Well, I think
I think we would have probably.
Grant would have been done, probably for 22 to 25. Wood's a little bit longer. I think that probably would have run us 35 and upwards. But it's something that we could have done down the road. It wasn't something that was a necessity the way Cleveland was, and it could have waited until we were doing Oak Street, for instance, and just done it as a part of that.
Where's the, are we trying to prevent Rosemar from having, taking a hit, and we're taking a hit too?
Nobody's taking the hit. I'm not proposing that we pay for anything that we didn't get.
Right.
If I didn't feel that the contractors were entitled to this money based on the performance, I wouldn't be here tonight.
Right.
We're not being invoiced for anything we didn't get.
Right.
The roads are gonna be great. Grant and Wood are better than we need, but they're great roads. We got all the amounts, all the quantities, everything ended up,
it's
all the
not
work
what we-
tested out.
It's not what we asked for.
It's not what we asked, well, it is what we asked for, it's not what we told what we were gonna pay for it.
We did it. I think what Trustee Superintendent Dean is trying to explain is that we did get what we paid for. We asked for it. The question is, this board had already approved 128. I think this is what Trustee Hilton's point is. This board already approved 128. What's the justification to get to 189? Why the extra 66,000? And I guess the dual answer to Trustee Devlin's question is, did we get what we paid for? Yes, we got what we paid for. We didn't get what we asked for, but we actually asked for more, and that's why the price is more.
We did get what we asked for. We
The
are paying,
calculations were
we
done.
are being asked to pay for what we got for, and we did get what we paid
So
for.
someone made a mistake in calculations and that's why we
Exactly.
got a lower
They
number.
didn't multiply that 524 per inch per square yard by 2.5, which is the thickness of asphalt that is on the road, 2.5 inches.
So how much did we
Why
approve?
is that our fault?
28, but the total's
It's
around
not the fault.
189.
It's not our
It's
fault.
not. But they had a very elaborate answer as to why they had, why the calculations went their way. And I guess at the end of the day, they said, their response was, hey, look, you guys asked for these additional roads, this is what the additional roads would have costed.
just from my perspective, is that there's, yeah, it's motivated. Yeah, the guy did his math. And it's not the new math. The bottom line is we got roads that were done. We got roads that were done in the manner that we requested. We could turn around and go down and say, take us to court. But there's, and this is Paul Panieri speaking, to Paul Panieri. My position is that if you get the job done right, if a mistake is made, mistakes are made. We're not getting anything we didn't ask for, we're not getting anything, additional. Yeah, we play hardball, but it's,
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And
well, you've seen that in your business at times. You deliver 20 and they charge for 10 and then you gotta figure out how to get the 10 back, correct?
Very,
Very occasional, but I don't think, for all the years I've been doing this, is the first time I've ever seen something like this happen. It's not. In Rosemont, in terms of the company, is, you asked, are we trying to make Rosemont whole bill for these guys? Who are we trying to take care of? Rosemont has done probably 85% of the paving in this village, and they do a great job.
work is exceptional every time. The only paving contract that I've worked with is never an issue, period.
Do we go out, we don't go out for bid because we take it off the contract,
Right, exactly. We went out to bid for a requirements contract. We issued a requirements contract for a lot of different kinds of work.
right?
These were two items in the bid. We awarded that bid based on the numbers that they gave us. It was a contract that was valid for a year. It's actually just expiring this month. And we just went through the contract, okay, mixed in place, Damasco, gave him a call. Same thing with Rosemar. Well, I didn't call Rosemar, just called Damasco. He said he'd take care of calling Rosemar. When we got the bid, it looked like that he had. He put both numbers on there with each contractor's name. In the future, I'll be following up on things like that to confirm that both contractors are aware of what happened.
Joe, what's the relationship between those two companies?
It's a good question. I honestly, I don't know. There is,
Masco doesn't do paving, Bobby doesn't do mix and place, so that the
Yeah.
relationship is.
they work very well, they work very closely together, and they work on a lot of projects together. I know they were working on some projects up in Smithtown while they were working on this project. They're not unfamiliar to each other, they know each other real well. Beyond that, I don't know what their relationship is, and that's what Bobby and Grant both told me, that they work on a number of projects together. So I guess it wouldn't be unusual for one to submit a price, on behalf of the other. That would be perhaps their business practice. I can't swear to that.
With a competitive bid situation, this would have come up, this mistake would have shown right away.
If we had designed the job and put it out to bid as an individual project, we would have gotten, it would have come up right away. If somebody had submitted a number that much lower than the next several bidders, we would have, asked the question and figured out that they hadn't done the math properly.
Right.
The reason we put out a requirements contract is so we don't have to bid out every single job, and we don't have to get three prices. And we crafted that bid package to address the needs of the village. The county doesn't take us into account when they put their requirements contract out. They don't, figure on us putting in one drainage pool and catch basin, or, a couple hundred feet of curb.
Right.
They do miles of this stuff, and, so that's how they craft, theirs. And it isn't always easy for us, to shoehorn into their, into their contract. It doesn't always fit us properly.
Right.
I would say that we met with great success with our requirements contract. I'm very satisfied with how the year went and our ability to access it and to get work done off of it. And I think it saved us money. Unfortunately, we had a contractor that couldn't read it properly.
But there's no double check, we don't know whether we're getting a good price or not.
We do know we're getting a good prices, and there's a formula that you can use for converting tons to, square yards and inches. So we did that math when we got the numbers back, and the numbers were good numbers as far as asphalt and concrete and those sorts of things. They were good numbers. As far as mix and place, we had nothing to go on. This was the first project that we did. We've never done this style of road work before. It was new to us. We've all heard a lot of really quality things about the process and about the road that you get when you're all said and done. It's essentially a reconstruction without excavating all the material out and replacing it. You use what's there. You have to have a suitable sub-base, and not getting too technical. There's some testing and stuff that goes on prior to determining that you can actually do this process. But when we did those tests on Cleveland Street and the sub-base came up as granular enough to accept this process, we went ahead with it, having never done it before. Very impressed with the process. The road is sensational. It's a heavily trafficked road. It's a fair amount of commercial traffic. It's going to last a good long time. Now we have something to go on in the future. Now we've done 2 of these roads because we actually did Academy Street this way in the late summer as well. So
Take a look at, in the last 4 years, we had 2 other roads done by other contractors. If you go down Academy Street, you're going to see a couple of blemishes in the road where they had to repatch after they got done. That was done by, what is it, Intercounty? Intercounty. Go down Cedar Avenue, just south of Mulford Street. You'll see a patch there. You go down on Laurel Street, there's a patch on Laurel. There's a number of patches that after they got done, they had to go back and repair.
that was Basilica.
By Basilico. You take a look at every other street that's been done in this village. This has been done by Rosemont. And maybe that's why I'm loyal to them also, because they do a wonderful job and do a great job. And if I was sitting here, we were arguing this out about Vinton County, or Basilico, I think it'd be a little bit of a different argument. Because they didn't do as good a job. So some of this has to do with the quality of the work we're competing with.
I believe the way the initial resolution was approved, it was for payment to Damasco for $128,000. We were, however, invoiced separately from Damasco and Rosemar. So Damasco sent us an invoice for $89,000, which the resolution as it stands now is authorized to pay them that. We're not authorized to pay Rosemar anything. And Rosemar is the guys that are out the additional product, not Damasco. So Rosemar is as much a victim here as anybody. If you want to categorize anybody as a victim.
Well, they're like the victims.
Agreed.
Any other questions for this meeting? Joseph, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions for the board? Motion to accept this as presented?
Well, I make a motion to rescind the payment of $128,000 to Damasco.
Motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor? That's okay.
Make a motion, I request approval to pay Damasco $99,106.75. That's a motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Motion to pay Rosemar $89,735. That's a motion.
Second. All in favor? Okay. You learn lessons with everything that you do. And you learn something. Thank you, Joseph.
Good night.
I tell you, you can leave. Get that little kid who's running out to the bathroom.
Don't forget to punch out.
You do all that?
That's all I have, thank you.
Can you give us an update just on Oak Street and the state?
Yes, actually, I wanted to thank the board. I know last meeting I wasn't here, but I know you guys approved payment of $39,000 per ground. So we can get rolling. Marion's been in contact with them.
Give a little just quick background on that.
And, well, it's been Oak Street's been like a 4-year struggle to
4 years.
do that. Well, 4 years for me, probably longer for you, right? When we applied for a grant, a various roads grant, we requested having Oak Street, among others, as part of that grant, to have re-engineered, repaved, and, sidewalks and the whole bit. However, we learned too late that the grant applied to what is called collector road and not various road. There's another term.
Theater?
Sorry?
Peter Rose.
Theater road?
It's Pedal Rose.
Yeah, that's not the word I'm thinking of. But at any rate, so we went through a lot only to find out that we couldn't use that money. However, Lakewood was considered a collector road. So what we proposed was to make a swap so that Oak Street would be considered collector and that would apply to the grant, which sounds pretty easy. However, when you deal with DOT and all the people who supply money in the supermarket, you're ongoing struggling and balance and helpful with this and that as well. You know, and they've been on board, and so finally we got the approval, I think a few months ago. We did get it in writing that we approved the swap. Oak Street was a collector. We got down to do some engineering designs, and thankfully you guys approved. And it looks like, you know, if things go well from here on in, that should be done around the same time as Four Corners, and so Oak and then Lake will be done.
When is that?
I'm thinking fall 2014.
Okay.
When is the heavy bathing suit season?
What?
When is the heavy bathing suit season, so we can stay away from that?
Summertime.
Okay. How's that?
What?
How's that?
Oh, you'll be home tomorrow. You'll be broken out in jail tomorrow. You can't wait.
Yeah,
That's interesting, thank you.
you can't wait, huh? Thank you very much. Mr. Green, trustee.
Hi, good evening, Mayor. Just a couple of brief items, and I'd like to talk about an item on the agenda. Tomorrow evening marks, tomorrow marks the anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, and the community's been through a tremendous amount over the last year trying to put themselves back together, their homes and their lives. So the Greater Patchogue Community Organization, Active in Disaster, a newly formed organization, is going to be hosting a community meeting at the Rec Center, 380 Bay Avenue. Invite everybody on the board, as well as those in attendance, to come down and share their stories of recovery. And there will be members from different organizations there, as well as Marion Russo, and spent part of the day yesterday disseminating information about the meeting tomorrow. And a lot of residents are still struggling, so they're going to come down and share their stories. So we have the evening free from 6 to 8 tomorrow. Please come down to 380 Bay Avenue. It'll be an evening well spent with your neighbors. And secondly, kind of rekindled an interest in Old Town Hall with someone that Paul and I have had several meetings with. Jack was involved in some meetings with Brian. There was an official offer sheet that was made through our office to the town. It's been passed on to them. I guess the town board will consider the offer, and hopefully we'll be able to push this proposal forward to get Town Hall preserved, rehabilitated, and active. Put it on the tax rolls, provide a service to the residents and the people from the surrounding area. So it's been a long negotiation, but we're getting closer to hopefully getting an agreement between the town, the village, and a private venture capital company that would look to acquire the building. So
What type of use do they know, and what they would expect to do with it?
it would be an office use with I guess a medical art sort of building where it'd be a consortium of doctors and other medical offices, and they're looking to provide a total rehab to the property, preserving certain parts of the building that have I guess a sense the spiral staircase and the mural and all of those things. So it'll be nice to see it finally rehabilitated like it should be, and at a cost that wouldn't be borne by the taxpayer. So it'd be good. So I'd like to invite Dave Kennedy, I guess, up to the mic, and at the chamber meeting, or actually a dinner over at Davis Park, towards the tail end of the summer, I had an opportunity to share a table with Dave and threw out the idea of a celebration of New Year's. And, you know, I've never been to Times Square, I have no interest in going to Times Square, and I'm sure there's many people from our community that perhaps may feel the same way. But I thought it would be an interesting idea to try and celebrate the dawn of a new year with people from the community. So proposed to Dave and some of the other chamber members that were there that night to consider a ball drop at the Four Corners. And don't know how we'll pull it off or what the ball will look like, but it sparked a tremendous interest to the people that are in the room. And we've had a couple of brief meetings with Jackie and Lori about how the evening may be celebrated. So I'd like Dave to just, I guess, share with us some of the thoughts that we've had and what the evening might entail. So.
Thank you, Jerry, and welcome. I'm sorry I was late. Rob Clark, I was Lenders Forum over at the theater tonight, so I had to stop there first.
How did it turn out?
Not bad, not bad. It was just filling in as I was going. It was the crowd was just starting to fill in. Yeah, now this is a concept. I think a lot of people over the years have thrown this out there. Hey, about a ball drop on the Four Corners. And it's been talked about. There's always been some excitement. Nothing's ever moved forward. Then Jerry reintroduced it to us the other day, and we had some thoughts about it. Now, I think the most important thing that, from our perspective, in early discussions about this, is that the last thing we want to do is create a crazy Times Square atmosphere. It's not. This is not about really creating another extra venue to bring more people down. It's more about having the venues that are already doing something on New Year's Eve a little extra spark to advertise what they're doing that night. The idea would be collectively to be working with the bar restaurants in town that do their New Year's Eve celebrations to coordinate that they would at a certain point ask their patrons to assemble onto Main Street to watch this ball drop. So I guess like 11:15, hopefully you're getting the people to come out on the street. They drop the ball, and by 12:15 they're heading back to the different venues where they came from. The only other place where I thought would be a positive way of at least getting the word out is I thought this would be a nice thing for the community, that we let the residents who are at home, that are in walking distance of Main Street, who maybe don't have something else to do on New Year's Eve, it might be a little nice incentive for them to come into town. We'll probably maybe have roast, do some coffee outside, maybe some kind of organized, possibly champagne toast with the restaurants that we could set up a certain way, but that would have to be logistically worked out. I mean, the informal, talking to the restaurants, the ones that we've talked to, they like the concept and they're willing to work with the idea. Obviously, the big thing would be the 5th precinct. I have 2 calls out to Sergeant Heller so far, and he's invited November the 4th. Is when we want to have a meeting with all the restaurants and the police and the village, just to say, let's talk about this. Is this realistic? Can we make this happen realistically? 6 o'clock at the chamber office, November the 4th. It's a week from tonight. All right. So again, it's really all about just a little extra something to do for the restaurants that are already doing something. Ask them to come out. We wouldn't want to really be advertising this like with full radio and paper advertisements. We realize that the crowd is already in town. We're not looking to bring more people in town. We're looking to just do something with the crowd that is in town. That would be unique. No other community on Long Island does a ball drop. It would be a cool little thing to do that I think would certainly generate some media attention for the community. As pros for the ball, I think people talked about, I guess, other communities and other parts of the country that do this use ladder trucks of the fire department. I just envision, I guess, you create some kind of wooden ball with a lot of Christmas lights that we hopefully get a discount somewhere at CVS or something. But that's basically, I think, the concept that's been talked about.
So we did, basically what we're looking for board approval for is to just mark the date and look to close Ocean Avenue from Oak Street to Church Street, and from Railroad to Maple, which will allow people to be able to congregate without having to worry about cars driving by. And look to reopen the roads very shortly thereafter the new year, where quite possibly maybe by 12:30 day or 1 o'clock, we
Yeah,
thought would be able
yeah.
to reopen have the roads open by 12:30 on after the ball drops. So it just like Dave said, there's no other Long Island community that does something like this. I think it would be an interesting thing to provide to the visitors and the residents of the village. So and of course we'll on the 4th have many of the restaurateurs that expressed an interest at the meeting. So any particular concerns or questions, I'm sure we'll try and flesh it out at that point in time. So
I guess the big question becomes obviously the fifth precinct. And my concern is that we get a public safety guy to decide
That's
to
what I
work.
was gonna ask.
You need between 7 and 9 guys, what they normally do when they do the close down.
And I think one thing we definitely talk about is, we've hired security, like we do for Live After 5. I don't think we need to do the size of security we do for Live After 5, but I think that there's general support that we could get from the restaurant owners to contribute for a few of the professional security guys to come in.
Have you mentioned anything to Suffolk PD yet? Is that-
Yeah, guys, the calls have gone out. I've left a couple of detailed messages for Sergeant Heller. I saw him Saturday, directed some traffic, and I just didn't get a chance to run into him during the fall festival, but,
Because I would think they're already pretty busy.
well, yeah, exactly, and exactly.
Believe it or not, they're busy, but it's also one of the biggest days where guys call in.
Sure.
So, it's a big problem for them just manning, because we're talking about a couple of other things over the years, and that always became the issues. The 4th of July, New Year's, and Christmas Day, it's like everybody calls in. But
I mean, again, this is something that's been, on paper, it sounds like a great concept. I think we all realize logistically, there's a lot of things that would have to come together to make it work. But so far, at least everybody we've talked to so far is, at least on the business end of it, we're very excited and open to the idea of having people come out on the street. I think this year there's no show at the Patchogue Theater, which I think that at least opens the idea up a little bit more, because if there was a show at the Patchogue Theater, I think it would be a lot more difficult to interfere with that. But since there isn't a show this year, it might be a good opportunity to try that.
I just think,
Sounds like fun.
an approval with a pending
It's-
you guys need.
Absolutely. We recognize without the precinct support, it's not wouldn't be able to fly.
We have to reach out to code enforcement as well.
Yeah.
And typically, I think that, so we're approving the location and
The concept.
and the time.
Yeah.
But I think the board would like to have a letter from the fifth telling us that they are able to supply us with enough.
oh yeah, it's quite clear that without the support, as David mentioned, without the support of the 5th precinct, we would not, and Chamber would not be able to provide enough security to
Right.
make the event a safe event. So it, after the meeting on the 4th, if we're encountering too many headwinds on this thing, it's not going to go forward. But it's, I think it's an idea, and a very exciting idea, that it's will add a little
I agree.
thing to the holiday
No, I
season.
completely agree. Another thing I wanted to emphasize was that the fire department has, we spoke about this before, absolutely insisted that Ocean be kept clear of obstructions, other than bodies, so that they can come roaring through, because that's their only artery south. So that we should think about the positioning of the ball, maybe
Yeah,
offset.
wherever, we're not going to impede the emergency access vehicles from going down Ocean Avenue. That's their route.
Great.
It's the only way that they can get to South Patchogue.
We'll be there.
You're fine.
Motion.
So that's in the form of a motion, and obviously anybody that's interested in coming to the 4th, the meeting next Monday night, please come down, and it'll be a work in progress. We'd love to have your ideas as well.
Second.
All in favor?
If you feel that you're gonna,
Dave, you want to stay for, you want to finish your report?
Sure. I don't,
Jerry,
I don't.
Yeah, no, I finished,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
that was the only other thing that I talked about, so.
Phil, did you have a question before you go? Phil?
no, if you feel that you're gonna fill up chamber office, you can always come down to 380.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let me see how many people, if I need more room, I'll definitely give you a call. Thank you very much. All right, again, I do apologize being late. I appreciate this opportunity to give this report now. Of course, I'm going to start with our Fall Festival. The first annual Fall Festival did take place Saturday, and of course, I want to thank the village for all the support and code and all the logistics went really, really smooth. The weather turned out to be nice, a little windy, but it was nice. It was a little cool, but it was nice. And for our first effort at this, I thought it was a very well attended event. It was a very steady crowd throughout the day. The chili and chowder contest was a very popular addition this year, and I do want to announce that the Parabelle chili, the sweet potato and black bean chili with brisket, was the winning chili. And the Mediterranean Manor did bring their truck down, and they served both chili and chowder. And their Mediterranean-style clam chowder was the winning chowder. But we had entries from Public House. There was a village resident who made a vegetarian chili and served it at a Hoptron boutique, and that was actually came in second place. That was a phenomenal chili as well. And we did have participation with the riverfront restaurants who did offer their chowders as part of the contest. Logistically, getting down there was, you know, we try to make it easy by having a ballot box at every location, encourage people to go down there. That's not always the easiest thing to do, but next year we're going to try to maybe incorporate a hayride or some kind of way to transport people down there to make it more user-friendly for the riverfront. As you all know, certainly the plan was to have more of that connection, and I do want to apologize on behalf of everybody that even though we did ask for all that approval to do that little pre-parade to get one to the other, it just never got off the ground. I think the Riverfront Committee got really wrapped up in the Halloween haunted boat ride, and that just took so much of their time that they never did really fully advertise the breakfast concept that they originally proposed. So I just basically asked them to pull the plug on it because I didn't want to have code come down and logistically do all that when it was pretty clear they weren't going to really get a crowd to do that. So I apologize, but I do appreciate you guys, you know, at least giving us the approval and working with us when that was the concept. But again, the Fall Festival was a wonderful event, and we're looking to make that an annual event every year. And next event, of course, is the Holiday Boat Parade that the Riverfront sponsors, and that's on November the 24th, on that Sunday. And that's going to follow up that following Saturday, the same day as the Christmas Parade, which I know Bill will be talking about, Trustee Hope will be talking about in a little bit. But earlier in that day, as I announced the last meeting, we will be holding a small business Saturday holiday celebration. We're going to have a couple of trolleys that are going to take patrons from both Belport and Patchogue back and forth. During the day, we're going to have carolers on the street and some other music and other holiday activities that won't ask us to close the roads. We'll keep it all on the sidewalks. And the restaurants will hopefully have some specials. There'll be special coupon booklets given out for special sales at the restaurant, at all the retail shops on Main Street. And to do what Small Business Saturday is supposed to do is encourage local residents to vote. That's next week, to shop local at their local stores to support their local businesses. So that should be a lot of fun. That will be a first-time event as well that we're looking forward to. And then, as everybody knows, or should know, Hanukkah is early this year. It actually starts Thanksgiving Day weekend. So we did get the request to do the menorah lighting on December the 1st. And so I don't know if the chamber usually does that on behalf, or if the temple does that, but I could put that in the form of a written proposal.
Parks and Rec usually does.
Does it usually do that? Yeah, I just got the call from the rabbi the other day just to let us know that's when he wanted to do it. So I want to make sure that's on everybody's calendar. We'll obviously do it the same spot that we always do it at.
Just in reference to the Hanukkah piece, on that Wednesday night, the 27th, at the temple, it's been going on for years. I've been over here in the office. They have an interfaith service, and each one of the churches here in the village and temples meet, and it really is, and each of them do readings St. Paul's, and like I said this year, and I think Rabbi Levinson, because it is the first day of Hanukkah, is going to be doing something a little bit special also. It really is a sort of a neat way to start the Thanksgiving weekend. You have the opportunity, I think it starts at 7 o'clock. You really have the opportunity, it really is something that you find very worthwhile, whether you're a religious in nature yourself, but it really is a very nice way to start it. I've gotten the opportunity, they go back to the old Lincoln piece of it, of declaring Thanksgiving, and so I do a proclamation, or the mayor does a proclamation, it's just going to be Jack, and I'm going to be visiting my son out in Colorado. The village supplies the proclamation declaring Thanksgiving, but more importantly, it really is the different congregations and the different religious groups getting together in one place to talk about a singular thing. You know, giving thanks for who we are, what we've done, and where we're going, and being part of it, being a very, a community that believes. So, put it on your calendar, it really is worth the price of admission, the time to go.
Yeah, November, it's the day before Thanksgiving, they always do it every year.
Yeah, it really is pretty beautiful.
And then the last thing I just want to mention, it's really just a thanks to the village.
Will you sign off for them on anything?
I'm sorry, not yet, we'll, might be calling somebody for a couple of questions for an interview or something.
You tell me when.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm sorry, David.
No problem. Good to see young citizens participating. And I just wanted to end by just saying thanks to the village for communicating to us when you're doing the striping. The sooner always the better, but I appreciate getting the communication when we do. And also in particular too, I know that once we brought that out, it opened up the issue about Tri-Tech and the construction workers and where they're parking, and it's been a constant thing, and I know the village has been on top of it. Great response the last couple of days with the letters going out on the cars, and having somebody there this morning actually directing the workers to where they're supposed to park. So they had that this morning, they had somebody directing them. They did. I mean, they came into my office, Marion and Dennis, to say that the guy was out there directing it.
I called, what's his name, and told him.
Okay.
There's still guys, a lot of guys parking on Oak Street. I left a message, not for you, Jack, for Rob. They were still. And I was down there I was down there at
Rob's
7
cell phone
o'clock.
number now, and we're
Yeah.
using that every time. I know he's trying his best, it's not always the easiest thing with police, but I know you guys are responding to it, and whatever you can to, assist in that, because there are a couple of days you come in at 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
and the Oak Street parking lot is already full, and obviously no business is open yet. So it has become an issue.
The old art space signs. No walking before.
And that's it, thank you very much.
And Dave, you did very good Saturday.
Oh, thank you.
So 99 bathing suits.
99 bathing
Yeah.
suits, wow.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But we put a,
That's right. And actually, I mean, why for that, this is the person who runs the business promotion committee, who made the fall festival possible, Lori Belmonte. This is really everything was
Well,
done by
David
her.
really picked up the slack, being that I'm a little short-handed at the store, so.
Yeah. How's Larry feeling?
Well, she's better, but she had to have her shoulder replaced, so she's got a little long haul ahead of her. But she's motoring a little bit.
she can have Abe's room.
Okay.
tomorrow.
But thanks for
Give
asking.
her our best, please.
I will,
forgot to
thanks.
ask.
Right.
Trustee Dillon.
Oh.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, my turn.
I know I wasn't here last time.
I'm soon to forget.
I apologize for not being here last time.
You're not allowed to speak after 7:20.
You wouldn't have enjoyed my company. I've got two quick things. First of all, I'd like to thank Attorney Egan, the mayor, and the board for the piece of legislation that got passed tonight. Our hands have been tied with regard to these dilapidated abandoned houses. I have 2 boarded up houses on my block, and several that should be boarded up, could we do it? Now, at least we have some teeth. We have a way of following up and doing something. We still have to follow due process. It's probably going to take a bunch of time. But prior to this legislation, we couldn't do anything about 203 West Avenue, which is, collapsing on itself, almost burned down. The other thing is, we did pass another piece of legislation earlier in this session that says that when the zoning board or the planning board gets an accommodation from somebody who's trying to build something, I was on zoning for 8 years, and we would be so frustrated because, you know, this guy said he'd do such and such, and they never do it. Now we have recourse, we can go back to them, we can take them to court, and we can make them do it. So I'm very pleased that Attorney Egan, by the way, I think it was 203 Spire, and the people in the audience who came that night, who were so emotional and concerned, that was the catalyst for, I know you've been working on this legislation for a while, but now we have it. So the second thing I want to mention, just very briefly, is I want to encourage, and I hope that the media picks up on this a little. Next Tuesday, November 5th, is an off-year election. Okay, no presidential candidates, no Senate, no House of Representatives, nobody at the state level, just the county and the town of Brookhaven. Do you know that if Suffolk County were a state, 11 states are smaller than Suffolk County. 11 states are smaller than Suffolk County. They have a $2.7 billion budget, and there's 18 men and women who spend that money for us. Okay? These people make a real difference in our lives. I'm not going to advocate for anybody because that's really inappropriate at this forum, but everybody needs to vote. It's really, really important. Then you go to Brookhaven. Brookhaven has a $252 million budget. It's 455 pages long. There are 450,000 people in the town of Brookhaven.
488,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's six people who decide what happens with that, and the supervisors. Okay, but it's so important that we get the right people in these jobs. So I'm done.
Good evening, everybody. I just have a couple of things. First of all, I would like to let everybody on the board know and in the audience that the planning board is seeking an alternate. We have an open position for an alternate. So if anybody knows somebody who has the interest and inclination, maybe some relevant background, who will be interested in working with the board and looking at site plans and helping to craft decisions that would work well in our village and the direction that we're going in the village. So please pass that along. And Linda, if you want to include something in the paper, people can send a resume or an email. Can I have an email sent to you, Patty? Of course, yeah. Have them sent to Patty. We can go through and arrange to meet with anybody who might be interested or if the board has any recommendations. We appreciate it. Okay, next topic. Probably noticed on Main Street there's been a sudden proliferation of these sandwich boards, and they're becoming a little bit of a nuisance. They're out in places where they shouldn't be. In some cases, they're getting much, much larger. So we're putting together, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're putting together a committee. I've talked to Jackie at the chamber, and she's going to make a couple of recommendations of business owners that could participate on the committee with several members of the ARB. So we're putting that together now, and hopefully we'll have some recommendations that can be made that will help to make the village safer and more attractive.
I don't want to interrupt, but I wish Lori was still here because, 5 years ago, we worked, remember?
Yeah, I was
quite a lot
around
on
for that.
this, right?
We did, but we never came to a consensus.
No, but we were talking about standard board.
Right.
That we were gonna have put out the bid for one of the sign makers, so they all look the same.
Well, Dennis Smith had done a lot of research at that time,
Yeah.
and I don't remember how it fell apart. There seemed to be a lack of agreement on
Yeah.
a lot of what Dennis had recommended, but we're gonna try to tackle it again.
Well, that's a good show.
Yeah.
And there should be still some stuff left over.
Yeah, I'll definitely speak to Dennis, because I know he did some research. I wanted to ask Attorney Egan if he might do some research on my behalf and see.
Sure.
I know that in certain villages, they're actually banned completely.
Yes.
And so, that's one option. But another option would be to come up with a standard, and it's very strict regulations to control. I don't know what else to say. But if you can find me, take a look as you always do and see how other villages handle these sorts of things. Sure. I mean, I had to stop, I won't name the store, but I had to stop at one store the other day and go in because the sandwich board is now so large and it was pretty much blocking the entire sidewalk. Between the garbage can and the planter in the building, you really, if someone with a wheelchair came by, they would have just been stuck and had no way to turn. This thing was just right there. he said to me, I think the wind blew.
I'm getting into, my sign's bigger than your sign.
It was pretty outrageous.
And
So,
also, many of them now are just cheaply done, just no class to it at all.
and we have some that are very nice looking. There's a couple of stores that have very attractive and colorful,
We're gonna put a big one
with neon.
swimsuits.
Yeah, lights.
How about a big ball of aid pointing to the
Yeah.
door?
Yes.
You know, you did, you said it
Did we?
reasonable. Yeah.
We didn't define it strictly
No.
when we did the signing.
Yeah, you had a
That was a
very,
while ago, though.
right.
What did we, reasonable?
Yeah, the board had, you know, a couple of years ago,
Right, mhm.
you chaired the subcommittee on big overhaul of sign applications before the ARB, give them some objective
Right.
direction. That was one of the issues. A lot of things were eliminated, a lot of things were made illegal, posters, fixed the interior windows, can't be handwritten, marquee signs was a big debate that was before the board. That was one of the open questions that was debated, and then ultimately left out, was signboards, sandwich boards must be reasonable in size, shape, and design. They cannot obstruct the reasonable use of sidewalks or egress from parked vehicles, and must be removed, in my opinion.
Well, we need that more closely. So, because obviously the definition of reasonable is too broad. Okay, and then I just have a couple of things here. Requesting board approval to set a public hearing to amend section 43522 of Village Code to require off-street parking in the D3 business district. You may recall that we've been having meetings with business owners, member of the planning board, myself, Attorney Egan, the chamber, Jackie from the chamber, to take a look at what we can do to require parking, which is right now not required in the D3 business district, and we had enacted the moratorium to allow us the time to review some ideas. So we've come up with a concept, and we'd like to set a public hearing. I don't need to go into the details of the concept right now. Okay,
November 25th.
so November 25th would be the earliest.
Motion. Second.
Second.
All right, that's okay.
Okay, and then I'm requesting approval to set a public hearing to repeal section 435-14.1 to end the moratorium in the D3 zone on applications to intensify use, convert uninhabitable space, increase the footprint or square footage of existing buildings, or increase occupancy.
So what does this do?
Well, what we're doing is we have a moratorium in place, we need to repeal it.
So you're repealing the norm.
Yeah, this is the companion piece. If you
So-
pass the other piece, this is the companion piece to repeal the moratorium that's currently in place.
November 25th. Motion.
November 25th, motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
That's all I have for this evening.
Trustee,
Good evening, trustees. First of all, I'd like to make a couple announcements. And, of course, we need the standing anniversary meeting tomorrow night at 380 Bay. It's going to be a great time to discuss the past year and tragedies that people have addressed and faced. It's also a great use of the building. Looking forward to seeing that happen. The Sousa Festival's on the 10th. It's my favorite thing. We have on November 23rd is the Wounded Warrior race at 9 o'clock down at Shorefront Park. It's a 5K. Proceeds going to the Wounded Warriors. We're also having that evening is the holiday boat parade preview, which, David, is that happening or?
Yes, what the preview is that most of the boats will be decorated the night before.
Right.
And they'll be parked at the various marinas where their boats are normally parked. So they advertise a preview show, and that's where they get the People's Choice Award from, is those patrons who visit the different places, and I believe a water taxi will take you to all three of the locations, the Ora, Harbor Crab, or the Off-Key Tiki. You can look at the boats, and you can vote on the one that is your favorite, and that will be the People's Choice Award winner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, of course, that following Sunday night is the boat parade itself, holiday boat parade. You can view it at Sandspit and Finn's. You got Finn's?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And 30th is the holiday parade. And it's also gonna be the Christmas parade. What's that? No, this year we're putting them all together. We're trying to get everybody together. That's the holiday parade at 6 o'clock p.m. And that should be a great parade. Everybody's having a lot of fun with the theme, which of course is dancing with the claws. Can't wait to see that. And the first is the menorah lighting, and then December, and then the 8th is the Kiwanis Toy Trot at 11 o'clock, also at the new 5K course out of Shorefront. They're going to be doing their registration at Fireman's Park. That starts at 11. And that is what's on the calendar.
Okay, do you get bocce for sort of,
Excuse me?
you getting to bocce yet?
No, I haven't gotten to the bocce. I was saving that for the end.
Good. You know, it's buried yet.
No, it was right here.
Uncle Louie, Uncle Angelo.
I know, and we have the St. Liberata Festival regenerated a lot of interest in bocce in the village. Something apparently in the past was very popular, Jack?
Yes, Father Tour Park.
Father Tour Park. The court was dismantled in the 60s?
By the Irish.
By the It was in the green town.
It was a bad time. Wow.
We had to put someplace to put the goats. So what we've, in the last couple of years, we've gotten together and we've been tossing it around on how to put them back in Father Totora Park. And finally, we've secured the money. And so I'd like to announce that we are going to be building these 2 courts. We are enthusiastic that the foundation is thinking about doing the lighting, providing the lighting for these courts. And the company that we're going to contract to build the courts is also going to give us a maintenance, proposal maintenance contract, which was one of the problems that we were having, was who's going to take care of it and who's going to pay the maintenance contract. But this is all preliminary. But I'd like to make a motion. Yeah. Make a motion that I have a contract here, which I apologize that the rest of you all don't have in front of you, but I can pass it around. That we contract with James A. Davis to build a bocce court for the sum not to exceed,
For 2 courts.
2 courts, right, not to exceed $11,500, and these will be 2 60 by 12 bocce courts set on 6-inch crushed concrete base, not 1 inch. Power compacted with a 2-inch bluestone dust surface with 6 by 6 timber tie walls secured with a 2 number 4 bar every 4 inches. That's in form of a motion.
11,000, 2 courts for it?
Yeah. 11.5.
Jim Davis, he's the guy that installed the southwest green, the putting
Putting green, yes.
So it's a stone surface?
No,
No, it's
That's
clay.
the
It's
It's
clay.
clay surface?
Yeah. It's,
Okay.
You may have sent us a little bit of big old country thing.
no, the one is what the father to talk.
Oh,
And it's not, it's a 2-inch bluestone dust surface. That was the problem, that we couldn't do the clay because of the maintenance on it. Extremely,
Clay is
yeah, yes.
So could we do astroturf?
There are several surfaces that we could, but we just wanted to get it out to the public and vote on this.
it's a amount not to exceed, it will determine the surface based upon it.
Right.
Those are most durable, it's a public park, so.
And like I said, we are we are arranging for the lighting. We have money left over in the parks budget for this. So it'll come out of the general fund.
So you bring your own gear?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's actually a club in the village.
My team came in third.
Did you still have your stuff?
I've had stuff for years,
Good.
but I never played until this
Good.
competition.
Okay, glad to hear that.
16 teams, we came in third.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, if you go down to the park now, we have the two playgrounds. You have the pirate ship and you have the handicap accessible one for ages, what is it, Bill, ages 4 to 7 or what?
Yeah.
Directly behind that is what Billy mentioned, is a putty green. Putty green, I would go down, I'm not a golfer, but I would go down and I would see grandparents, I would see parents standing there, hands in their pockets, following the kids around. My goal for that section of the park, Billy and I have talked about it, Maria, is to make it a family-friendly area to go. They could want to go down there as a family. At the end of the day, when Dad gets home from work, or Grandma and Grandpa babysitting for the kids and want to go down to the park, they can go down, he can take his buddy, he can relax. The kids are old enough to be on their own, they can be on their own. We had it professionally done. It's a beautiful, it's a gorgeous space. If you're a golfer, you know somebody's a golfer, go down and take a look at it, it's pretty neat. The other thing that's coming up, Billy, I think that next summer you're having, put in with,
Yeah, all the adult equipment is in, it's at DPW.
adult and workout equipment.
Yeah, which we're gonna surround the east side of the putting green. So it's for, a park that's underwater once a year. And everything we put in there can be underwater.
Yep.
And we've actually been able to turn a piece of property that was very, very hard to manage into a useful place.
Yeah, I've spoken to Maria Justicia.
Good.
That's it, we're practicing.
Yeah.
Our director for our recreation program, about, instead of trying to figure out how we're gonna do everything in the park itself, you go down, we have grass issues, we got path issues, is to really take that area around the playground itself and really focus ourselves on rebuilding that. Parks are for families. We always say we have playgrounds for kids, but parks are for families. I think you have shade structures that are gonna go up because during the summer it gets 90 degrees out, you could fry an egg on the blacktop.
Yeah.
We need to create some additional paths through it, but hopefully by this time next year, we've gone through with the paths and really doing some neat things. But it is about families. It is about having a place that families can go down as a family, and everybody has something to do.
Yeah.
And we're working with, I think right now you can, if you have a tablet, you can go down and you can make.
There's a hotspot.
Yeah, I think there's a hotspot for that.
Yeah, and I've been working with Cablevision to upgrade it, so, you can go down, it's after work and you have some stuff left to do, you can still go down and do some of that stuff. But you can bring the kids down while you do it. And having grown up here, having spent half my life running through that park from one end to the other from the ball field, for me, it's one of the most beautiful places there is around. One of the reasons I never leave town in the summer. Closest I get is to have a beer at Egan's house across the beach. So, if you get a chance, go down, take a look. If you have some ideas of other things that can happen within that playground area, get to Maria, get to Bill, get to myself, and say, what about one of these? I'm into it. What about one of these? Because it is going to be the neatest little place by the time we get done with it. Because it needs a lot of work.
We're getting a lot of funding.
And
Yeah.
some drought tolerant landscaping.
Yep, absolutely.
And some
That's the other thing too, is just, and I spoke to John Cena the other day, what I would like to do, two things down there. I would like to get a interactive sculpture, put it at the entrance into it. Something kids can kind of look at and feel and get a sense about. And then I would like to take the corner of that, I would like to see us create a sculpture garden where people, whether it's from Art Space or the Arts Council, or individuals from here at Gulfport in the area. So many artists do so many beautiful things that end up in their basement, in their garage, because they have no place to put them. Well, I want to give people a place to put the stuff that they create. You know, right now we have the Arts Council, and we have the theater lobby, and you have roast, you have the storefronts, you have art space, where people begin to, this artist begin to come out of their basement. So if you got a 6-foot high sculpture that you made when you were in shop class in the 8th grade, let me know, maybe we can bring it down here. So it's just a little bit of editorializing about it. It's extremely important. And marine building, that really kind of focused, and we're going to focus on this one area.
It's very rewarding.
It really is pretty neat. Pretty neat. I'm done babbling, Bill.
All right, that's good.
I was just about ready to give you the 5-minute thing. Just two other things, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to request approval to hold the annual Veterans Day ceremonies on Monday, November 11th at Four Corners, beginning at 10:30.
Second.
In favor?
Okay. I believe that he needs the sound system and road closed.
Starts at 10:30. Got that, Jerry?
I usually do.
Looked like it was last year. Here I am. 10:30.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to request approval to hold the 51st annual Holiday Christmas Parade on Main Street on Saturday, November 30th, beginning at 6 p.m. Is a motion?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any other comments by the board?
I just, I'm sorry, Brian, Grant.
No.
I had, as we were sitting here talking about so many things tonight, one of the things that sprang to my mind, we talked about it briefly when we walked on the homecoming parade, was the sidewalk in front of Burlington. And I'm wondering, do we need to actually go out for engineering services for that? Do we need to set up a bid or an RFP for that? How should we go forward with that?
We're working with Marion right now, because part of the problem we have is we have some federal money to do some of that. But we need to get easements from all of the property owners as to whether they will do, I think it was 4 feet or 6 feet off the building is private property. So we're in the process now of trying to get those easements. And really, I mean, that section of sidewalk, you're right, it's just a mess. It's dangerous and it's a mess.
You know, the easements could be a complicated thing to get, but I
Actually,
mean.
Dennis has worked with about everybody. We put Dennis on a mission.
But is there anybody that we can retain, architectural engineering services, to draw this up? I mean, it's something that I'd love to see this thing happen. We've been talking about it for many, many months, and we've had funding in places from different sources, but at the end of the day, whatever we do decide to build there, or whatever the board or Lori or anybody agrees upon, it's going to need to be designed.
Yep.
And Joe Dean and his staff, and whoever's going to actually install it, are going to need a map to follow it. So should we?
I would check it. You can see Eric tomorrow, Marion tomorrow. Get an update from Marion, because she might be along the trail on that a little bit too. I know that she's been working on this. She either if she's not as far along the trail as I think she is, so we know, we'll make sure. And it might be Valdesano she's been speaking to already, I don't know. I think it's Valdesano, but why don't we check with Marion in the morning?
I'll check with Marion, and we'll see where she's at with that, but it's something that I'd love to see happen sooner than later. It's been too long.
Public. Yes, sir. This gentleman right there.
You want me to come up there?
Yeah, I would appreciate it.
Sure. He's had some hip surgery.
Oh, I didn't
Thank you
realize.
for your time. I recently bought,
Just state your name and address.
my name
for
is
the
Harry Young, I live in the Riverwalk community
Harry Young.
on Railroad Avenue.
Yep.
I recently purchased a home there 6 months ago, and on Railroad Avenue. And my question to you is, what do you plan to do about the Emporium with the traffic problem the public intoxication, urinating on my front lawn, fornicating on somebody else's front lawn. It just goes on every weekend, time after time, day after day, night after night.
Well, we've taken a very aggressive position when it comes to talk about the urinating public and the open container. The judge's fines on that started at $500. So and it's almost outbalanced the budget. There have been so many of them, and I agree with you. It's very problematic. The same thing with the open container, that's a $250 fine. So we really addressed those very aggressively, both Suffolk County PD and our public safety. The problem is, it's just the numbers that they draw. You know, it's a building that, it's unfortunate, but legally they can have the occupancy they have. And we put on a typical night that they have an event, we'll have 5, 6, 7 of our public safety officers trying to curb exactly what you're talking about. It is as upsetting to us, I think probably more so to you because you live with it. We try to control it, right?
I also thought, also to add, that we've had ongoing discussions with the Suffolk Police Department. They have a new captain that has told us that, because we've been living with it for a while too, the numbers were here for the imported complaints have now dropped off significantly to them. They're not ready to declare victory, but they feel that they've gotten a lot. If you're still seeing these elements, absolutely call 911, call the Suffolk County Police Department on all of those issues you just outlined.
Okay,
Because we want to make sure that they get the complaints too and address it, because the captain was giving us the impression that they had had such a significant drop, they feel that their presence policing has had an impact. If you're still seeing it, by all means, call it.
It's not just that it's public intoxication, it's somebody's gonna get really hurt. I mean, we've seen girls laying on the sidewalk, out cold, for 2 or 3 hours.
Have you called the police?
We called the police right away.
Okay.
And
I
somebody could have just gotten the car drunk and rolled right over the head. She'd be flying in.
When you have that level, Brian, of these intoxication type of violations, isn't there something that Suffolk PD can do as far as their liquor permit?
Well, that becomes an
Because
unruly premises.
that's over service, which is.
I know they generate a lot of money for the community.
None for us.
Oh.
Let's put it this way, it does, it's generated through the violations. I prefer not to have the violations and have you have the comp than us. The thing about it is, we have a new captain now, Captain Hardy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a hold of Captain Hardy and bring him in.
Yeah.
And let's go through this thing again, maybe next time we'll get.
The reason why we want to have the complaints to 911, again, we don't have a police force, they're some county police force, but you want to have the complaints there, because as Trustee Devlin was pointing out, they get what's called an unruly premises complaint form, and when there's a significant mass coming from one area, one place, they can have an action against their liquor license. So we want to make sure that any complaints that you see that are there get registered with 911.
I've always gotten a response, but the code officer came and he was by himself and what could he do?
Yeah.
And it's
There
not
was a
much.
fist fight in the street and they're going all over.
And as far as the code officers goes, there's really not much we really want them to do when it's something like that. Their job basically is for code violations and not to get involved in any kind of police activities. But just to let you know that I get these reports regularly on field appearance tickets, and public urination is one of the highest. Like 2 days, we got 12 here. So our guys are out there, and it's not a really nice job to have to do, be out there with people who are urinating. But they are out there, and we are
And they are issuing fines.
enforcing and issuing fines. But it's really important, and you can do it, is to call the police when you see things like that happen. And call them, call code enforcement, 475-1225, if you see a code violation. Don't let it go on, as the word says, we need to let them know.
Thank you.
You moved in when, sir?
Pardon me?
Mr. Young, when did you move in? How many have you been there?
6 months ago.
Okay,
I was a 35-year resident of Babylon Village. I wanted to ride the wave of the resurgence of Patchogue.
well,
This has just been the only drawback.
we'll take care of that. But was it quieter during the summer to start to pick up now?
Yes.
this is when it gets bad.
Yeah.
In the summertime, they roll out east.
Or right down by the water or
It
something.
gets, if there's a punk rock band or something, it brings a different element.
Absolutely.
But
You know Mayor Scudino there?
I know Ralph.
Yeah.
Ralph for a long time.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, great guy.
He really is a good man.
Really changed the village around.
He's
They're doing the same thing here. You can see the tracks.
declining. But let us see how we can help you out with this also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the village.
OJ?
John Bojack, Knoxville Street. I just want to follow up on something from the last meeting, about the audit report.
Yes.
A lot of facts and figures that we did out. $500,000 in found extra revenue, is that part of the report? Did I catch that correct?
It's not pound extra revenue, it's extra revenue that came in from various sources, from FEMA funding, from the young lady that stole $192,000, she paid back $92,000, that insurance company paid back another $100,000 of it. There were $220,000 or thereabouts of additional unbudgeted fines, which Mr. Young was saying, that they came from the urinating public and the public safety and that. So when you combine all of those little pieces together, it came out to about $500,000.
Have a good rebate?
Now we're gonna pave this road, that road,
All right, I just, as I'm sitting here in the audience, I have to remember back to my old CPS days. If you're having me with the cops, I'm not accurate about, I may not be accurate about this, but you might want to discuss it with them. If I recall correctly, public urination can be construed to be a low-level sex crime. Right, so I'm sure if people start to get arrested for sex crimes, public urination is going to drop measurably in the village, if that's the case. I'm going back in time, I'm not positive, but my recollection is it may fit that category.
you know, we have a couple of our.
Because it's public exposure to be
That
general.
it's got more than one. I just kind of wonder if you take a look back and see if you multiply it out. Take a look at that.
You have to remember that the base of it is public exposure to genitals. So
Absolutely, I understand.
Right, so, since you're having that meeting, I may be wrong, I may be right, I don't know, you can ask.
I just wanted to follow up on you about the JVC question.
Oh, sure.
You asked last week.
Right.
Looks like they're just about this close to finalizing their deal to go into 185 Waverly Avenue, and you're telling me that early January or February, they're looking to move in.
Are they gonna buy the building?
They're buying the building, yes.
Is JVC the kind of company that, I know they manage, is it Penny Saver?
No, their main business is radio stations.
Radio station, so they got venue management.
They manage the Brookhaven Amphitheater, yes.
Amphitheater, right?
Yes.
So are they the kind of company that maybe someday would be managing the Patchogue Theater?
Probably not.
Probably not, that's outside their expertise?
It's not their business model.
Okay. All right.
And but they put on shows at the theater. They work with the theater hand in hand to put on shows.
They've been a big supporter of the theater, which shows that they do.
I know, yeah, I know the name is, as you know, someone on Patches looking to get a job with them, is very excited, I'm sure she'll be happy to hear this news there. Thank you.
What's up?
Fifth Street, it's the old bus terminal building.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rick Johnson. I live at 904 Emily Drive. I was just wondering, I haven't been to any meetings lately or anything, on what's going on with the plans for the dock.
We have just gotten, well, we just sent in our agreement to FEMA. I think it's $1.4 million is what they're going to be giving us to rebuild the dock. We made a decision, and I pushed making a decision not to do anything except make it safe and make it walkable and manageable until we found out exactly from FEMA what they were going to give us. I've talked to other mayors and town supervisors who jumped ahead and rebuilt something and only got reimbursed for portions of what they rebuilt. because they didn't have FEMA approval to do it. I thought that we could make the dock safe, wait to find out how much money reimbursed. How we want to rebuild it based upon that reimbursement, and see whether we add some money in to do it a little bit better. But, so, as soon as we get what's called a blue book from FEMA, which outlines exactly what they've approved and what plans they have, then we'll start working, and hopefully by May, June of next year, we'll have it back in place. But what's just holding up is me just making sure, my own paranoia, which is that I don't trust certain other levels of government, that we don't do something and then all of a sudden get hung out the door. That's,
But I mean, do you already have plans on what you want to do? So when you get that okay
Yes.
from FEMA, you're going to go to a...
absolutely. It's goes right out the bid at that point done. Because one of the things we're looking to do is to rebuild it so that another storm such as either Sandy or Irene, which tore it up also, that this will be secure enough that we can limit the amount of damage.
Right. But I mean, I don't know if you saw in the paper, Long Beach just got finished using like tiki wood. It cost twice as much,
Right.
and they went ahead and did it that way. I mean, I don't understand that.
And they're probably not gonna get reimbursed for a third.
Yeah.
So I, you know, I'm just conservative when it comes to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the Highway Department, Department of Public Works, Joe Dean and his crew worked very hard to get it to a point at least where it's safe, people go down and fish and get water.
Yeah.
The next thing is to get the boardwalk back in place and do it in a manner that will secure it.
But how long do you think it would take them? I mean, it's almost a year already?
We should get it hopefully anytime now.
Yeah.
I don't suspect it's gonna take.
There's no chance they would start building now then, because I know last year he was talking about starting in October, doing something.
You know what I think happened also, is that we had damage here in the village, but I think when FEMA went out and prioritized who they're going to approve first, I think that they were Babin, Lindenhurst, Amityville, those, you know, friends to the west really, down to Shirley Mastic area. And I think that our LDOC is down here someplace on this list.
Yeah.
That's my sense, you know, they never tell you that, they make it sound like, we're gonna give it to you tomorrow, but they don't.
Thank you.
I appreciate